We are starting with the next session, National Center for Excellence, turbocharging the sector. Request everyone to please be seated. Would like to invite the panelists for the session. May I now call upon stage Mr. Sameer Jain, Managing Director, Primus Partners, Mr. Armstrong Pame, Director, Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, Mr. Biren Ghosh, and Mr. Ashish Kulkarni, Founder, Punaryug Art Vision. Thank you.
It is very difficult to get people away from taking money today to talk about a session that is going to give money tomorrow. So we'll give them few minutes because they are all busy taking 2.5 crores.
So good morning. My name is Sameer Jain. I'm a managing director at Primus Partners. Have had the privilege to support Ministry of INB in evaluating the AVGC potential and the steps that it should take. So that India can become a 30 plus billion-dollar market in AVGC in 5 years' time, that it can employ more than 20 lakh people in this sector, that it can become one of the big contributors to the India's $5 trillion economy goal, and that India can become a AVGC hub. I think it's undeniable of what we've heard yesterday and then today. Everything is right as far as the intent is concerned. However, to achieve this goal, there are certain issues that we must look at, and it's important for us to really look at them. That India still is a net importer of the AVGC content, that with 18% population globally, we are still a 1% of the larger market. We still are seen as a back office in AVGC. Still, there is a lack of a regulatory mechanism to promote this sector. And also the fact that there is a significant skill gap and lack of standardization in education. And more importantly, it's still running in silos as far as the industry, public sector, ministries are concerned. It's a very good analogy that I would like to draw. The Indian IT industry opened up in 91 or so, and today, after 30 years, it's a $200 billion industry employing more than 5 million people. It's an amazing feat of what India has done, and we are very proud of. And India, of course, has become one of the knowledge economies to look at. But if you really look at the global context, in a $7 trillion IT market, a 200 billion market means nothing. And when we talk about the realization of the demographic potential and all that, it seems like a small number in what has to be done. So if you look at why, I think the big observation is whose subject matter it is. Sometimes it's an IT ministry's job. What is the education ministry doing about it? What is skilling ministry doing about it? What's the Ministry of Commerce doing about it? And one of the realization was that they were all running in silos, yet there were collaboration, but yet the larger potential existed for India to move up the technology value chain. And that's the learning that ministry took when it wanted to say, how can we create the next big sector in AVGC for India? And that's where the conversation about skilling, education, industry development, innovation, R&D, piracy, IP creation, promoting local content all came together. And with this came together the thought that it's not going to be one ministry or one entity job, but it's a collective job that the country must do. Hence, interministerial collaboration, public-private sector collaboration, and center-state collaboration all became the guiding principles to doing something. A lot of consultations have happened, as you heard yesterday, by way of a task force. There's a policy coming both at the center, and then many states have undertaken this. And one of those tangible actions is the development of a National Center of Excellence, which is not an institute, it's not a skilling entity, it's not an innovation hub in itself, but a catalyst, which basically brings all of these moving pieces together in a more structured manner and really help India realize its potential in a much, much faster and a global manner. And that's something that we want to discuss with you today. I'm joined here by Mr. Armstrong Pame. He's a director with Ministry of INB and has been championing the design of the NCOE for over a year, and also the two doyens of the industry who essentially created the AVGC contours in the country, Biren and Ashish ji. And they have all been very instrumental in creating what will be an NCOE in a few days to come or few weeks to come. So we will. It's necessary for all of you to know what an NCOE will do and the role all of us will play in that, and we will focus on some of those elements. So I will like to invite Armstrong Pamesa to just give us a view on how is Government of India looking at NCOE, what's the structure, what are the contours, what are the objectives, etc.
Hi, good morning, everyone. It's an honor to share stages with, especially with Biren ji and Ashish ji, well-known people in this AVGC context for the last, say, 30 years. So the reason why we felt that NCOE is required, let me just give you 2-3 points. So I've been in the service in the IS for the last 15 years. Till last year, September, or say, when was I given this charge? Say August. I had no clue what is this about. I always felt gaming is a waste of time. For me, I've never played a single game in my mobile phone till date. Animation movies, I said, wow, if there are movies where real human beings are acting, why go for animation? So I always had that thought. Now, a person like me, who is serving in different parts of the country as a district magistrate, as a joint secretary, special secretary, secretary, and there are so many of us like this. And in the IS, we are taking care of various big sectors, and I had no clue about it till I started studying about the report submitted by the task force, and I saw that, wow, it's a sea of opportunity, and why are we missing about it? Especially after Ashish told me to visit Pinewood Studio in Toronto, I came back with a thought that, I think this is something which, if not everyone, at least all the civil servants, especially the district magistrate, should be taught about, should at least be told that this is one of the fastest rising sectors. So in one of the NITI Aayog conferences of the aspirational districts, where so many DMs, district magistrates were there, they were talking about skill training given for tailoring, given for this and beauty parlor and others. I said, okay, those are needed, but you guys have fun. Why are you not looking into this high sector, high skilled level professionals where our boys and girls can earn a respectable sum, or they can become a creator or entrepreneur on their own? Many of them were not aware. That's why this NCOE, an entity which the ministry plans to set it up as a temple of learning for the industry, for the academics, for various government policies to be experimented first, and for the state to act as a consultation point is required. That's one of the first objectives. The second is, okay, some people say, why do you need government's intervention in this? We're already doing well. For example, even with zero intervention from the government, for example, Technicolor is helping in the production of top-class Hollywood movies, Top Gun Maverick. We visited his facilities, amazing facilities. Fine, we need not intervene. But without government intervention, how long do people in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities will take to get such opportunities? Biren will be able to answer that. how long such facilities will come up? Will it take for this facility to come up in, say, in Manipur, Guwahati, Kohima? I think not less than 10 to 15 years from now, if government does not intervene. So the reason why we felt that NCOE is required is to expedite the expansion of this sector. See, however talented a kid may be, we have grown up in our schools. Those people, whatever talent they have in drawing, sketching, after class 10, no more. Parents will say either engineer, doctors, or civil service. Khatam, where is the avenue for him or her to get into this sketching, drawing, or this creativity field? We always call it waste of time. Talent cannot wait. We cannot tell that kid, you wait, because we'll wait for the private sectors to come and set it up. Government cannot wait for that. We cannot let those talent be wasted away, expecting that private sectors will take its own course and sweet time to make sure that it reaches every part of the country. So we want to make sure that this reaches every nook and corner of the countries, and make sure that those people who are interested and talented are shown the way through this intervention of the government in the form of NCOE. The third is, I also happened to visit, as I just mentioned, last year, September, and I went to represent the ministry at the Toronto International Film Festival. So one of the model that I was quite excited about is the technologies used in this AVGC related matters, the animation and this, are damn expensive. Now for a startup from a small town, where do they get the money and the resources? What CERT, the Screen Research and Industrial Training at Pinewood Studio does is, they open up all their facilities for a startup. They will give their ideas. These are the same studios that did the Star Trek and others. The film directors or the producers will come and say, we want these ideas. The startup guys will come and say, we want to accelerate this. We want to convert, this is our idea, we want to convert this into this product. Those finest brains in this Pinewood Studio will put their resources together and make sure that the ideas of startup gets converted into products. We want to provide such facilities through NCOE. A startup from small town will come and tell his or her idea to the NCOE faculties there, working there. We want to see this in the end product. We have this idea, how do we convert this? We do not have facilities. There, the startup will give the ideas. The IP remains that of the startup. The facilities at NCOE will make sure that this startup realizes his IP products, ends up, the way they imagine. That's how government plans to intervene in this by setting up NCOE. We plan to invest about 500 crore or so by taking the industry partners, CII and FICCI, giving them more freedom, because we know that AVGC is a fast changing sector. Without the industry intervention, we cannot progress in this sector. So we're giving the industry majority share, 52% stake. The government will retain only 48%. And that's how we plan to take this NCOE forward, and we have lots of visions as we will be discussing further. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Very aspirational. Just to extend your thought as to why NCOE is needed, and the point that I raised, that when we have to take this sector forward, we have to look at education, skilling, innovation, industry, access, a global penetration as well, also together. Because it's a multi-ministerial thing, every ministry has to play a role. We also thought that NCOE could also become a platform where all of the ministries and states and industries come together. So just wanted your views by way of the councils, etc., the governance structure. How would NCOE make this happen?
Well, I have explained most of it. So we are setting up the board structure, the governing body structures. As I said, the majority stake will be with the industry. The governing structures will have representations from the FICCI and CII. And also, my ministry has given a provision for not necessarily that they are nominated by CII and FICCI, but ministry has the liberty to put some expert member as a part of the governing body. So I think that sums up to say that we are giving enough space for the industries to give their participation, ensuring that their voice is heard. So I think we should leave to the two experts to explore further, because they have been a member of the task force.
Yes, very much so. My next question is to Ashish. Ashish, NCOE is a catalyst, but there is a lot of action that will happen at the states level, and you are one of the people who are spending more time at the states and making them realize the potential that AVGC can offer to the state GDP. And NCOE does talk about the hub and spoke model. If you can just shed some more light for people here to really understand how would this hub and spoke model work, how would this center and state partnership work, and the roles states will play in realizing this using NCOE platform.
Well, I think the important thing about NCOE would be basically to have all the stakeholders have their representation. The industry definitely looks at how the benchmarking of curriculums would really happen. And then once that benchmarking happens, it's for the universities and the school boards and also the center of excellences that every state through their policy are also promoting to be into their own states should be able to draw from these case studies that are built, should be able to draw from the standards in the curriculum that we built. At the same time, there are, like Armstrong sir said, that, ideation and innovation, fund for people to really see that they can actually take that idea from ideation to a reality. And that has got a long journey, and it requires the support of a lot of people, because at the end of the day, animation filmmaking or creating a game or creating a visual effects movie requires a teamwork, and not an individual can never complete it. And I think that's where the support would come from these areas. At the same time, we have initiated fund of funds in many states, and they needed to really see that you need one point of contact, and anybody coming and investing into India needed one point of contact from where one can actually see where how they can work in India, how they can set up in India, how they can utilize skills at various places. All these can be answered by the National Center of Excellence. At the same time, many companies would like to see that they do an upgradation of their own talent, and that also can be provided within the Center of Excellence, because that's where you have a shared information. Although many companies work with a very tight protection of IP and also very tight protection of the technology or a proprietary tool that they really do, but it can always become a beta testing center. And I think that's where you have a model that is going to evolve. And when the first concept that we had given in 2005, it was on the lines of IIT, and it has evolved much beyond in a very different way, and I'm very happy about it. Of course, when a new idea gets evolved, there are a lot of hurdles because a lot of ministries have to pass it. But then nevertheless, once we crack this model, as Armstrong sir said, I think it's going to be a role model for many industries to follow this. And especially, we talked about a hub and spoke model. Now, every center of excellence that we have right now in, say, Bangalore, in Hyderabad, and we have STPI Center of Excellences that we have created in Maharashtra. There are a couple of them coming up in Delhi right now, and many other states through the policy that the national center, the state center of excellence coming up. There has to be a connection between these so that there is a hub and spoke model. As we do the skill gap report also, the skill gap report, we are trying to attempt to do it state-wise. That would give an insight into how this skilling can happen, what programs can run into which state. All this intelligence can come through the National Center of Excellence.
Thank you, Ashish. Biren, my next questions to you. Armstrong sir did talk about the way the technology is evolving in this sector. It's like getting obsolete every 2 to 3 years, and NCOE will become a showcase for bringing the state-of-the-art technologies across the value chain for people to learn and leverage. However, there's a bigger role industry also has to play in terms of democratizing technology, in terms of taking this technology and giving access to a young content creator sitting in far off corner in the country. So what are the various models that you see that the technology access does not become the hindrance in India?
Thank you. The National Center of Excellence conversation is a very familiar one. In your boardroom, we have been coming there for 1.5 decades. And I think we have evolved this quite a lot. Where I think we have right now is, you heard the opening comments both from Armstrong and also from Samir. It is a very mature thought process. It is probably ahead of its time. It will give way to other sectors following what we do because it is extremely enlightened. The reason why it did not happen until now is because it was being developed more on a PPP model where one company or one partner would partner the government, and then we are a very young industry which is highly IP driven, and people were worried that if one partner comes in, then what will be the level of my confidentiality and access to that. So I think first of all I must compliment the government on the model that has been created, which is probably going to be very difficult to explain to many ministries. It's probably a very hard selling task as a new concept, but it will set a benchmark. To answer the question, let me give a perspective. Many people in this room have spent a lot of money and have failed many times for the reason that when you create a studio that is either IP creation or services for the global market, the people that have made money in the 25 years are people who are landlords, people who sold desks and tables and chairs, people who sold computers, and many of those startups did not survive because they first have to go and create 100, 150 people, show some track record, then go to an international company and hope to get work. So I think, from this learning, we have evolved to a stage where one of the things is that you need to be, there are five components to a studio. There's the creativity component, there's a technology component, there's a production management component, there's a talent acquisition, training and talent management component, and there is an understanding of money. Now, most creatives can't span all these five very successfully, and that actually becomes the challenge. So one of the things that the center will probably do to become a role model is to help folks to come in and plug and play. In the rest of the world and other industries, the WeWorks have shown the benefit of a syndicated infrastructure that can be used by different people. But no company that wants to be in visual effects or animation can go into a WeWorks because the networking and the storage and the connectivity and everything that you require for large scale transmission of files back and forth is not possible from a WeWorks. We've had to use a WeWorks in Mumbai some years ago for a very short period because we just ran out of space and we were in a major project. And it was treacherous because we had to carry data back and forth, and some things like modeling, etc., could have been done there. So the first important thing is leveraging technology. We have in the room here Wacom, we have in the room here Autodesk, we have in the room here NVIDIA, we have in the room here Unreal. And all of these folks know that basically if we can all come together and create a facility first as a center, and the central COE is only the model, because it should be replicated in tens of places outside in order for this to become what I would call a string of pearls that makes the necklace of what centers of excellence should be. I have a little problem with the phrase center of excellence, because first you have to create a center and then it should become excellent, and then you should call it a center of excellence. But no matter, it's a visionary concept. Back to the conversation around technology. The center of excellence, in my opinion, is not about what the government can do. The center of excellence is not about what the industry should do. In the industry, the maturity that hopefully conferences like this and organizations like CII and many others should create is to get the industry together to understand the areas in which we should compete and the areas in which we should collaborate. We don't have to say this to the steel industry or the automotive industry. They know how to do this. When Infosys, Cognizant, Tech Mahindra and others get together in a room, outside they are probably going to compete, but when they come to the government, when they come and create things, they actually know exactly what they should do in order to push the... I believe that now we have reached the level of maturity in the AVGC industry and the M&E industry where large and small companies together are now understanding the benefit of cooperation, networking, giving work to each other, and so on and so forth. And a COE is a center where that mehfil can actually come together and create those thoughts for tomorrow. And those thoughts cannot be, even the policy of 5 years can never last 5 years. Because today we are able, when we sat and talked about the NCOE a couple of years ago, if we sit together today, then the focus will be on artificial intelligence. The focus will be on virtual production. The focus will be on things that did not exist in our ecosystem and our requirement 2 or 3 years ago. So it has to be very, very evolutionary in its thought process. My last 3 comments on this are as follows. Number 1, I think from you we've heard the voice of reason. If high-ranking officers like yourself need to be inducted when you come to this portfolio, then one of the things the COE should be doing is that, and we did this from the very first CII Summit Effects. The first CII Summit Effects 4 years ago was the first time we had 5 ministries all getting together on the table. And since then until now, we made sure that because it's an ecosystem play, the technology part is partially with telecom, the technology part is partially with STPI and what they do. The technology part is partially with MITI, especially now in the area of games. And of course, the content and the whole driving force is the role that the INB should play. So this is an extension of INB in working with industry and other ministries and other members of the system to do it. Your specific question was, how do you create what happens at a studio like Technicolor that is the lighthouse for our industry in this country? And how does it go to tier 2 and tier 3 cities? The first thing that I should say to you is that on an annual basis, we work with between 25 to 35 other organizations in India, where during the peaks of our production, we work with different companies in order to make sure that they can help us in terms of delivering our work. This was not possible about 5 to 7 years ago. But technology is making it possible, and we are making it possible, and it will continue, and I think we'll work with even more companies. Secondly, on the education front, this is really important. I serve as a chief mentor for a center of excellence in Shillong for animation and a center of excellence for AR/VR in Imphal. And we set up the facility there. We have the STPI funding, which is coming from Octane, which is part of the STPI story. But the problem that we have is that people who come forward to pitch ideas and want to work there do not know how to make a proposal that we can fund. So sometimes in the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, we need to start at a very ground zero level in helping people to help themselves. That is one of the key requirements, right? They're not as savvy as many of the startups that we have over here who come from, a different level of background and education. I think that's another role that the state and the central government can play, is helping people to help themselves. Because this is not a mature market where someone comes with a really slick business plan which is authenticated by EY and you can just put it on the table and give money. So I think we are in that story. And I think what's happening by virtue of what we are trying to do is to democratize many things. the democratization of technology, the democratization in the way that we want to give incentives, the democratization of the way you access government, the democratization of the way in which you develop talent. So we have now created, we have 3 centers, and we'll move to 10 centers, where companies like ours have been running academies and bringing about tens of thousands of people in the world across our four continents to become world class. We have now written those curriculum so it can work outside of our proprietary pipelines, and those curriculum will be now given to industry through 4 centers that are remote. They're outside of Technicolor. And I think those initiatives from many of the other studios will actually help to develop this. What is the meeting place to have these ideas? We come once a year to CII Summit FX, or we go to other conferences once or twice a year, but there should be a place where this conference carries on 365 days of the year, and that perhaps is the NCOE. So that's on the technology front, Samir.
Thank you so much. Ashish, I have my next questions for you. If you go back in time and look at the origins of NCOE back in 2014-15, there was a thought about how do we bridge the skilling gap. And of course, the concept of NCOE has evolved. But if we talk about that, the industry will need more than 20 lakh people in a very short span of time, cutting across the crafts and the skills. There has to be, massive undertakings both in skilling and education across the value chain at scale, and NCOE is looking to do that. So what do you suggest, of course, for the knowledge of the audience, are the specific steps that NCOE can categorize if we were to create this kind of volume and also high-end skill sets in the Indian demographics?
I think the biggest hurdle is to have an outreach into the pockets where traditional creative art forms are existing, and most of these traditional creative art forms families can extend contribution to animation industry, and in studios like mine we have used it for the last 20-25 years, especially people from Tanjore, Mahabalipuram, Channapatna, Ramnagaram, Krishnanagar, and we have constantly brought talent from there who have never gone to schools, but we have actually groomed them because they had a very solid creative foundation, 3D visualization from their childhood, but they have never used tools, and the tools were always in English. They have never touched a computer, and they could speak only one language, and that's where we actually transformed them to have the center of excellence in the state would take a lot of care of these, because these art forms can then find ways into becoming an IP and a design identity of that state, and into animation it can be presented quite well. Second thing is that we needed to really make it affordable, because the cost of setting up animation education is so high, and even taking them through a long drawn process, because anything short term doesn't work with our industry. It has to be a long term thing, because we needed to take them through the process and they need to start contributing to the process, and that's why it becomes very unaffordable for many families to really get into this. So I think the Center of Excellence and the National Center of Excellence both would really see that how do we make it more affordable on one hand. Second is that we need to really see across the pyramid. One of the contributions that has happened in the industry by we have Anuj sir sitting here with 35,000 students in year after year, coming from Arena and MAC, from tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 towns, of course tier 1 as well, actually laid some kind of an orientation, and also looked at the process, and also got to a level where they can actually join studios. And rest of the training had to be done by the studios, because the industry can never get made with completely ready people. Not even software industry. You cannot still go to IIT and go to IT company and start working and delivering on the project. You have to be trained for the 6 months to really orientation into the project, and then you start delivering. And here the transition was little more required because we had different forms of storytelling. We had a traditional hand-drawn animation, we had 3D animation, we had digital 2D animation using Toon Boom, we had using Flash, and various other mechanisms. And even in 3D, we have various different tools. And then comes the visual effects and the gaming and the interaction between the software team, coding team, and the creative team, the level design and the rest of the execution, and then comes the testing and also the final delivery. So I think into the value chain, many people at many point in time never get exposed to everything that is required to be done. They actually are stuck with modeling only in many institutions in animation. By the time they get that machine time, their course is done, and they don't even get to animation and many other things. So the idea is to really see that across value chain, we should be able to support, whether it's the ITI model, whether it's model which is not going through a structured university program, but also going through informal education, and even that certification and the diplomas that they go through, whether that is important, that is giving them a value to join the job directly or not, and whether some of these require a finishing school, and how they can actually come into this space. So actually across the value chain, it need to add to different places. The sensitization at the university level, even the engineering student can do a major into entertainment technology, and do a major into animation and visual effects coding, or game coding. I think these interventions would come only when you have Center of Excellence or National Center of Excellence talking to them and exhibiting that this is what is going to happen. And the last and the most important point is that the National Center of Excellence will have to take an ownership of train the trainers at various levels. And I think faculty training is the most important thing. And as Biren said, that it's a confluence of the industry and the academia that will constantly meet. At the same time, we realized forming Whistling Woods in Mumbai was that every filmmaker, after finishing a film, whether it's an actor, director, choreographer, or a camera person, or a visual effects person, would come and teach at Whistling Woods or do a case study, and that's a major learning. And I think these centers would really see that the people from the industry are there to interact with students, and people from the industry are there to do the faculty training program, and that's why they would make them aware of the latest things. And I think that's where the success of India would lie.
And we will open up to the audience as well. It's a very interesting topic. But just a couple more questions. When we were going through the designing part of it, we interacted with a lot of companies where there were conversations about our own IP, not only in terms of the content, but also in terms of the AVGC technologies. We got to know that a lot of companies, especially startups, they have innovatively created their own toolkits and small plugins, etc., which has made their lives easier at an affordable cost. And hence, while there is an incentive for production, there is a local production fund that also the policy is proposing. NCOE is proposing an innovation fund, which I think is a very interesting space where it promotes innovation R&D, both in content and technologies. Sir, if you could talk about that as to what this fund will do.
Well, in the proposition stage, as of now, in the draft NCOE plan, we have segregated specifically 100 crore for this research and innovative fund. This may, this may become obsolete if we delay further. Because as Birenji was saying, the establishment of NCOE was announced in the budget speech by our late former Finance Minister Arun Jaitley ji. in the July 2014 budget speech. Now what? Already about close to 9, 10 years now. We still haven't got a green signal to go ahead. So our DPR may become obsolete if we delay further. 100 crores seems reasonably okay right now, but if we delay further, we may have to, push and increase the fund. What this innovation fund would do is, say, let me talk about the costs of technology. So when I visited the studio, there was one small machine by the name of use in that studio by, I think that's manufactured by NVIDIA. So I asked this guy, Mr. Dave, who run this, sir, how much would this machine cost? So he said, sir, not less than 300,000 US dollar. 3 lakh US dollar. I immediately started calculating in terms of Indian rupees and like, wow, so much? You mean for these small machines? So I was coming back and thinking that, if such a small machine can cost this much, what about NCOE having that facility for innovators from India who has a knowledge about this machine and would like to invent similar machines to be used here in India as our own product? That's one reason why I want to push for this innovation and research fund. We should give opportunities for people. If a person who has never been in this field of the screen industry, the VFX animation, he or she will not have an idea about this. But person who have an experience in this field, when he or she is given an opportunity, make the funds available, I'm sure they'll be able to come up with similar or if not better machines to be produced that has made in India's product. So for all of this, we're, I think 100 crore as of now to start with, I think it is okay. But bigger than this is the vision that the ministry has. Once the AVGC national policy is approved, and hopefully it should be in the next, well, I wouldn't like to give timeline. So
Let's say 1 month.
Munjol Shroff used to call me up and say, how is it? I said, I don't ask me for timeline anymore because I've been making promises that we've not been able to follow it up.
One more promise.
No, so, but I'm happy to tell you that out of the 9 ministries that we sought comments from, 8 of them had been positive. Only 1 is opposing, but that's very important.
So all of us can go there together.
So we have prepared a reply to that, and hopefully if that ministry also says yes, I think we're going to soon be having a national AVGC policy. Under this AVGC national policy, we're going to have something called the AVGC mission. Like if you're aware of some, like say, a national health mission, all of those, like those mission, we're going to have AVGC mission to be headed by the Secretary of INB, chaired by Secretary of INB. The mission director that will execute all of this plan will be the JS rank officer sitting in the ministry. We will have a separate mission directorate that will be able to implement whatever we discuss. NCOE is just one component of it. If we have 100 crore only for NCOE for the research innovation, I think we're going to have several more 100 multiplied by, so many factors for research and innovation. So I think people like you in this industry should remain upbeat about it.
Biren,
Thank you very much for those inspirational
on
words.
his behalf.
No, I'm just adding to this in terms of innovation and research. It would be very difficult even with the full 100 crores to replicate NVIDIA's machine. But I have a far more practical thing. If you look around the first 2 or 3 rows of this room, there is IP that is being innovated every day in the services sector. So in the way that we create fur, hair, water, etc., that is IP. So a company like Technicolor and many others in animation and visual effects We create projects or products for our end client, where the IP of a Jungle Book, Lion King, or a Top Gun Maverick belongs to the Hollywood studio. But the way in which we create it is our intellectual property. So the knowledge that we have as a company in creating quadrupeds, and you're going to see that. We have Sean Mullen, who's come back from some years in Paris, who's made 3 feature films, who's going to talk about what we do in features. And we've got people from the visual effects community, from the top 4 studios in the world, presenting visual effects this afternoon. I want to let you know that over the years, we had started patenting the ways in which we produce IP. And up till about 5 years ago, Technicolor owned 22,000 patents that gave us a royalty income of approximately €1 billion per year. It takes time because to register one patent takes a while. When those patents were coming to end of life and we didn't have that much pool, we sold our patent pool to a patent company. So if you're looking at giving money in order for these folks to use their existing technologies and their existing IP and use the innovation fund, then the methods by which animation is produced, India is much better at coding than actually taking the world on with creative. We haven't got the Mickey Mouse yet. We will get it, but it's not there today. So while we always talk about creating film, and while we always talk about creating television and always making sure that we'll take this globally, which we should never stop doing, because as the Prime Minister said, AVGC is the way by which India's stories will be told to the world. That's great. But if you want to look at the low-hanging fruit, the 80% of the work or 60% of the work is services. And while people are performing these services, they have plenty of methods, workflows, etc., which actually can create patents and intellectual property. I would like this to become a large focus of what we want to do with the Innovation Fund, and I thought I'll bring that to the table.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone. Because you belong to the media and entertainment sector, you won't believe what is being planned without seeing it. The NCOA still is on papers, but very much a tangible action. But what we could show you one of the samples of what a COE would look like, where state of Karnataka with Biren's leadership has already created an Abai Center of Excellence. We would like to play a short clip for you to see what that is, and then you have to just multiply it by X numbers to see what NCOE and the other regional center of excellences could become. And then we will open up to audience's question.
Hi, this is Lokesh Nagaraj. I'm a film director. This is the first time I'm visiting AVGC, Center of Excellence, and motion capture and scanning technology. For this film, Vikram, we are exploring this technology, and I heard that this is the biggest in entire Asia. It was a very nice experience. Thank you so much.
Hello, Namaste. This is Arjun Sarja. This is a very, very nice place with a lot of technicalities in one window.
உண்மையில ரொம்ப சந்தோஷமா இருக்கு அபை சென்டருக்கு வந்ததுல. இந்த ஃபிலிம் இண்டஸ்ட்ரி வந்து ஒரு நெக்ஸ்ட் லெவலுக்கு போகுது அப்படிங்கிறது வந்து இந்த அபை ஸ்டுடியோஸ்க்கு வரும்போது we can actually realize that.
The biggest facility in the country also. So thank you for being part of it.
I was impressed with the facilities there, including the motion capture, facial capture, and the virtual production studios, and the photogrammetry setup. We look forward to working with Abai.
In all probabilities, I'm sitting in the future in terms of how filmmaking and entertainment is going to reach all of you. Huge congratulations to the entire team here for building a facility so awesome.
We all should feel proud about this, that ನಮಗೆ ಈ ಫೆಸಿಲಿಟಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸಿಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟಿವ್ ಮೂವೀಸ್ ಕೊಡ್ಬೋದು.
Hi guys, my name is Prajay. I'm CTO at Merge XR. I've heard about Abai a lot, especially for a project like ours, which we are working on, and I would love to come here more for my other shoots.
Just a quick shout out to AVGC Center of Excellence in Bangalore. The whole team was amazing, very, very professional. They were very supportive. So I look forward to working with them again in the future.
I had the opportunity to shoot in AVGC Center of Excellence.
They have amazing facilities that will give the creative production a big support and boost. They have a finishing school program which can bring a big revelation to students, molding them into the personalities that they aspire. Abhay has become the thought leader, and I wish all success to this technological revolution. Thank you.
It's one solid center, a place where so many things could be achieved. It's a pleasure to see such a fountainhead of technology in one location. I wish you do more improvements and make India proud. Thank you.
In the interest of time, we will probably just take 2 questions from the audience, and I'm sure you have more which we can take up during the lunch and later.
Hello. So first of all, thank you so much for sharing all the incredible insights. It's really, really helpful. My question is, from India, a lot of the things that are holding us back, like one of the biggest setbacks is the cultural mindset of the people, and them, as you said, thinking that, engineering is a better pathway than going to a more creative route. So what is our strategy for changing the cultural mindset of the main populace and the consumers who would be also consuming the content and also potentially feeling inspired to work in the industry? Thank you so much.
Can I request Ashish to answer?
Yeah, of course. Well, as an industry, all of us are trying to do that for the last 25 years. We go to small towns, we talk to parents, we talk to teachers, we talk to students. This is a very difficult task. It's not easy at all because our education system itself didn't provide for it. No sooner you have marks for creativity, performing arts, design, sports, people start taking it seriously. But yesterday we had the director of CBSE. They said as the students, parents have allowed them to take it at 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade. As they come to the 10th, 11th, 12th grade, they're wanting to shift back to engineering. So the mindset would take a generation to change. And that's why we need to get more people from various walks of life to actually work with us so that their kids also can join this industry. At the same time, the people who are working in the industry will have to constantly do this effort apart from their jobs and apart from their businesses to go and convince that how lucrative this career is. And that's why what Armstrong sir said, that the AVGC mission that has been proposed is basically to see that we actually create different campaigns and different contact points whereby we enhance this information and convince people to see that this is equally good, careers to take, and you can create in India for the world is something that we would like to see how this can go to the next level.
That's really incredible. I believe in your mission, and I really hope we can do something incredible in coming times. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
One more question. Whoever is the lucky person. Where? Oh.
What is the government doing to combat piracy in that section? Please repeat. Piracy or? What is the government doing to combat piracy in AVGC?
Well, about the piracy, we do not differentiate between the AVGC or the live short movies. So I think you should be the most happy person asking this, that you're gonna hear an answer from me. On the 4th of August, presidential assent has been obtained for the new cinematographic act. That will make piracy a very stringent punishment. The act of camcording through your phone or any other device in the video hall itself can become, you can be charged. After that, you spreading it, be it in the form of website or any other medium, will become a crime. You are liable to be fined up to 5% of the production cost jail for 3 months minimum to 3 years. I think that's harsh enough.
He didn't mean you, he meant generally.
No, yeah. So I think the government has been very, very serious on this. And I'm happy to tell you that now we're making the rules to make sure that this bill, which has been passed by both houses of the parliament and that had received the assent of the president, gets into effective implementation in the next few days. So I think you should be happy with this.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I just read somewhere that in metaverse will add $1.4 trillion annually to the Asia Pacific economy. And today, AVGC, while we talk about it in the context of media and entertainment, will permeate into every aspect of life where the physical and the virtual world engage. Sorry.
We'll take one question from the lady.
Okay. Sure. So, let's take this and then we close this.
Okay, just one little intervention here. I'm happy to read this bit about research and innovation at the NCOE. Just want to remind you guys that there were just two famous computer graphic programmers from India. One is Ashish Khosla, who's left India. The other one is Devang Mehta, who sadly passed away. This is an area which we really should be bringing up and concentrating on. I hope the NCOE is going to address this.
Shabani, NCOE would propagate this because most of the research in the formal way would happen there. It would also collaborate with all the technology companies to have their testing sites there so that we can actually do some bit of testing and development at the same time. But let me tell you, as an industry, we have reached out to universities, including IITs, and over the last 5 years, since 2018 onwards, little over 5 years, we have been able to register more than 80 research students into this space of AVGC in various universities. So that's a big one. And this year we have registered 8 students into fine arts in PhD. So,
how many are members of CGRAPH?
Sorry, how many?
How many are members of CGRAPH? I would like to see more names.
We can give you the list. You can connect and convert them into the members.
So I'll request Armstrong Parmeser to just give his closing remarks, and then let's have the discussion later on as well.
So just one or two quick points. How do we make sure that our coming generation or the youths gets interested in this? Number one is spreading awareness, which Ashish and your team has been doing. We need to propagate this further. As I mentioned in the beginning, if someone like me who has been in the service for 15 years have never heard of it, I think you guys should do more, and the ministry will do even more. Second is, after we started this skill development program in the 3D animation, the amount of inquiry the ministry has been getting. In fact, only yesterday we replied to one RTI because one of the students was not chosen. RTI. So we have to give a big reason. 300 people applied, only 100 got chosen. So why am I left out? Now it's slowly increasing, and the best strategy would be to tell that people who are in this creative field, who are in this AVGC fields, are able to earn, support themselves, and doing great things. I will just give you an example of one of the fellow guys from Mizoram. So he's on my age, so I just asked him, hi, John, do you earn about 30 lakhs? Comparing with my salary, because we're of the same age. So I just asked him, do you get similar salary like mine, 25, 30 lakhs? He said, no, sir, I don't get 30 lakhs a year. Huh? Oh? I earn about 1 crore 20 lakhs a year. So an answer like this will definitely encourage more young people to get into the space. And I look forward for a day when NCOE, not only in India, but the branches of NCOE is being set up in different parts of the world. Like IIT Madras is setting a campus in Zanzibar in Tanzania. in the next 10 years, why not? NCOE to have his branch in South America, Africa, Southeast Asian countries. So that's the vision we look forward.
Thank you, everyone. And yes, I'm sure you have a lot of ideas and questions. Please take them up later on with the people here and during lunch as well. We hand it over back to you.
Thank you so much, panelists, for an interesting discussion. Would now hand over the token of appreciation to you all. Would request Mr. Ghosh to kindly do the honors.
Thank you for your inspirational words. Anything you can do, let us know. Photo. Thank you very much.
Thank you, panelists. With this,